point is, when you understand your community, you have to understand the history of your community. You have to understand why the gay men are the way they are. They've been battered, beaten down, and hated on. And so they could be a little vicious, they're a little entitled, but sometimes I think, wow, that was me when I'm losing patience. I came in a room ready for a fight because my whole life was about fighting and trying to be resilient in a place that pushed me to the side and said, I didn't like you. I hated you. You're different. You're not good enough. You like other men. Yeah. And made me feel bad about who I was. Instead of saying, you're a beautiful creature of God. You are all right the way you are. You're a nice guy. You are love. And that's all I simply want to be. A gay man in the LGBTQA, ally, not fag hag, community. And I want to be loved and give love. So that's my part of my presentation.
In Baltimore is being filmed as we speak.
Yeah. Here we are in downtown Baltimore.
Yeah, downtown Baltimore. So tell me more about Baltimore, Greg.
Well, Baltimore,
Turn left onto St. Paul.
it's an old port city, and
Half a mile. Turn right onto East Highway Street.
was historically a industrial town and port city that kind of declined with many of the other old industrial capitals in the United States. And the reason this conference goes on in Baltimore is, well, because of some valiant people struggling against one of the worst HIV epidemics in the United States. So a lot of big cities in the United States have tough problems with HIV, but Baltimore is particularly bad because it's got a very very severe problem with poor people. There's just a lot of poor people in Baltimore, and they're really poor, and a lot of them are black, and with that there's a lot of drugs. There are a lot of heroin, a lot of illegal drugs, and so the HIV problem is very, very, very concentrated and compounded. There are neighborhoods in Baltimore where half of the people are HIV positive.
What?
Yeah, half of the people.
Woman, if you're heterosexual, pose it now if it hits you. Ready?
So snap if you believe you were born this way. Pose if you have embraced your sexuality. Snap if you felt different from your family of origin. Pose if you create a family made up of people who love you simply for just who you are. Snap if you were bullied for being same-gender loving. Pose if you learned that reading bullies was fundamental, leaving them slaved and ended the read with a dramatic snap. Snap if you've been to a church and left spiritually hopeless and on your way to hell. Pose if you have developed your own relationship with God in a spiritual home. Snap if you have to fight for the liberty of being same-gender loving. Pose if you understand how freedom comes from those who was persecuted and fought back. All brave LGBTQA communities that came before us. Snap you were HIV positive and know someone was HIV positive. Pose if you understand the importance of PrEP and U equals U. Snap if you had drama in your life. Pose if you are resilient.
Thank you. Into this program. Okay.
Thank you, Carla.
First of all, thank you, Carla, and thank you all for being here. Also, thank you, whoever made these beautiful flowers. Did you know how beautiful the flowers were? Yeah. I don't know. I noticed things like that. So this is a great privilege. This work that I'm going to share with you, it's the first time I've spoken about this, other than just talking about it as we do it. Carla and I, and Dr. O'Neill, who's going to be here later on today, are actually working on a book on this issue of spirituality and medicine. And this thread, or this preoccupation comes out of palliative care. But it also is gradually down, page down. Oh, here. Oh, yeah. It's gradually emerging as a core concept in the way we understand health. The classic 3 dimensions of health are, you know, physical, mental, and social. And I don't think it's WHO.
God is like a lover relationship. It has to be intimate. It has to be yours. It has to be where you are, because everybody's not going to be the same. And God, who you believe God to be. I'm a Christian, I'll say that boldly. But you may not be. Just find somebody, because you can't be the only best thing in your life. You can't be the only thing in your life, because it's not going to work. Who picks you up when you fall? And if you depend on man to do that, you're going to be in trouble.
Say that.
You're going to be in trouble. Sometimes no one can help you but your spiritual part of you. It took me 40-something years to come to that. Because I'm 50. Well, anyway.
So I'm standing here with Dr. Anthony Amoroso.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much,
You're
sir,
welcome.
for giving me time.
You're welcome.
You know, I'm so happy. I'm thrilled to be here today. I come from a country where, you know, even talking about gay sex or talking about HIV or talking about, you know, it's all considered taboo.
Yeah.
So for me to be able to come to a conference with such fine doctors as yourself, who have, you know, committed your lives to working to prevent HIV, it's an honor and it's very empowering for me to see on that.
Okay.
So, you know, how long did it take you to get here where you are today?
Okay. So my name's Anthony Amoroso. So I started as went to college. I trained for 4 years, 5 years, it took me 5 years. I then was trying to become a scientist, PhD, and then I decided I would go to medical school instead. I studied, before medical school, studied transmission of HIV from mother to baby, the science behind that. And then when I got into medical training, the 4 years of medical school, 3 years of internal medicine residency, 3 years of fellowship. But when I started getting into medicine, it was during the AIDS epidemic. And we would have 30 to 40 patients dying of AIDS in our hospital. And I was a young doctor trying to figure out how to take care of them. And it was right at the time that antiretroviral therapy came out, and so we were trying to use the medications as best we could to save as many people as we could.
Yeah.
So it's come a long way. From our, my patients would die very quickly. I would be lucky to keep them alive for a few years. To then we would have great, there's a thing called Lazarus effect, where you take people who are literally on their deathbeds, and weeks to months later they would be enjoying life and back with their families and looking to go to work again and going to parties, and it was such a wonderful time. I think going full circle, we're at a period now where we really do believe that we can eliminate transmission of HIV. That's our goal. That's why we're having these meetings. That's why we're trying to push the U.S. government, the drug manufacturers. It's a new awakening in the United States, really, to say, hey, we have the tools to do that. So what Dr. Pappas wanted me to just say briefly was that, yes, it is true, and we've done mathematical modeling, that if you get enough of the population who has HIV effectively on antiretroviral therapy, the science is pretty clear that if you can get about 90% of everybody who's infected suppressed on HIV, you will eliminate transmission of HIV.
Fantastic, sir. But I have to tell you this very unfortunate incident that took place in Pakistan just last month. A doctor who had been diagnosed with HIV, who was HIV positive, deliberately used infected needles, on children. And in just last 1 month, there have been hundreds of children who've been diagnosed HIV positive in SIM. Now that doctor happens to be behind bars, obviously, and there is a investigation going on in the matter. Yeah. But how would you describe the psyche? Why would somebody do something so sickening, and that to somebody from the medical profession?
I couldn't explain that. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's. I couldn't. It seems like it's probably pathological, and they're not sane.
Okay, so when this story came out, is HIV a death sentence?
Untreated, HIV will ravage the immune system, and people will get infections that will kill them. And it's a matter of time. It can be as quick as 2 years, as long as 20 years, depending on the immune system, how much HIV virus you have. Untreated. Treated, no. Treated, people are doing wonderful. I mean, it's one pill once a day. It's easier to treat HIV now than diabetes. Hypertension. I mean, if people can get access to the medication, they can take it, they're supported, and they have people around them that help them, and they're not stigmatized, and they have access to the medication, they will live a normal lifespan.
And sir, my last question is HIV exclusively a gay man's disease?
Oh, no. The vast majority of people in the world are heterosexual men and women. Vast majority. And young children who are born from mothers who have HIV. So one can only walk into most developing countries and you will see that. It's the unfortunate part is that it's been from the very beginning. And I think the Americans and Europeans were really behind this, saying that it was it was gay related, but it wasn't. It's through sexual transmission, mother-baby blood transfusion, mother-baby transmission, breast milk. Anybody can get HIV.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, and I wish you all the very
You're
best.
welcome. You're welcome. You too. Good luck.
Thank you.
HIV is not a death sentence. It is not a gay man's disease, and HIV is not a punishment. It's a disease, it's an illness that can be treated. And back in the day, it came out as GRID, gay-related infectious disease. That was a mistake, because there are heterosexual people dying of unknown illnesses that were later discovered to be HIV. So it was never just a gay man's disease.
Yeah, I'm with Dr. Victoria Raveis. Doctor, thank you so much for granting me this interview. We are here at the Thriving with HIV conference. Now, many people in Pakistan, where I come from, see HIV as a death sentence. What would you like to say to those people?
It's not a death sentence anymore. When the disease first started, we didn't understand what caused it, and we didn't have the medications and other treatment options that were available that help people live with the disease. Now it is eminently treatable, and we view HIV, as long as people are in treatment, as a chronic condition. What that means is that people can live a completely normal lifestyle for a long period of time, and HIV is just one aspect of their life that they are taking control of.
I'm Justin Johnson. So, सबसे पहले तो Justin, congratulations for me coming from Pakistan. This is amazing. The fact that you can have a conference titled "Thriving with HIV." I think a few years ago people thought of HIV as a death sentence, even here in the United States.
Yes.
Unfortunately, where I come from in Pakistan, we've just had an outbreak of HIV, and a lot of people consider it a death sentence. What would your message be to those people who think of HIV as a death sentence?
So I've actually been living with HIV for 14 years now, and when I was first diagnosed, I had that same misconception that it was a death sentence. Mm-hmm. Well, like I said, I'm here to say that 14 years later, and I'm healthier now than I have ever been. So the credit I would give to the patients, mm-hmm. because I think a lot of people with HIV either advocate for themselves or have somebody that's willing to advocate for them. So advocacy is a very important
disease.
Oh gosh.
And a lot of people also, where I come from, think that gay men deserve to die. So what would you like to say to those people?
HIV is definitely not a gay man's disease, and Baltimore is a living proof of that. There are equal amounts of heterosexual people in Baltimore as gay people that are HIV affected. Mm-hmm. And yet, I mean, it's not cool for anybody to have it, but nobody deserves to die because of
their
sexuality or who they choose to love, who they choose to have relationships with. I mean, that nobody should even I mean, that shouldn't even be like a thought in the back of your mind.
I know, but unfortunately, this is a thought that prevails.
It's scientifically proven that that it's not a choice to be gay.
Yes.
It's something that's genetically entwined in you, and you can't change it. You cannot change the fact that you're a man and attracted to other men, or a woman and attracted to other women, or being bisexual and being attracted to both sexes.
Well, darling, I'm trisexual and I try everything that's
sexual.
sexual. But
Our bodies are designed by God. God makes no mistakes. We can't help who we love. Our bodies just go to who we love. We're like opposites attract. You're drawn to who you love. It's not a conscious choice. It's just a chemical thing that happens. And God loves everybody.
and so, hi Melanie, how are you doing?
I am blessed and highly favored.
Mashallah. So that's what we say in Pakistan. That's, praise to God.
Yes.
That you, and when you told me that you were 67 years old,
Yes.
and that you were first diagnosed with HIV some 20 years ago.
Mhm.
So first of all, I'd like to know, Melanie, discovered that you are HIV positive. What was your first reaction?
Am I going to die? And because I had experience watching people waste away from HIV that had progressed to AIDS, and I didn't want that to happen to me, and so I wanted to get on medication right away. And God loves everybody.
And absolutely, Melanie, I love you. So wonderful to see you, Melanie.
Yes.
All the very best. Thank you. Yeah. So, and lastly, my question is for I would like you to give a message out to the gay people in my country who are too scared to come out, who live a life of constant fear and constant paranoia because the society would just not accept them. Would you say some words of empowerment, encouragement to them? What would your message be to them?
I would just say, live your life, continue to be strong, continue to move forward, make waves, and one day things will change and it will be better for everybody.
And I think, darling, now it's time for a halal kiss. May I? Mwah. That was a halal kiss. Lots of love.
I have been involved in HIV research when it was still known as AIDS. So we're talking 3 decades.
Wow.
Yeah.
And in these 3 decades, what kind of breakthroughs, innovations in medicine have you made? And also from the point of view of how AIDS or HIV was stigmatized and seen as something nasty, have attitudes changed in the United States of America, and how much effort did you have to put in it to make, to bring things here where you can actually have a conference which says thriving with HIV?
Well, it's a long process. When AIDS first happened, nobody understood how one got it, and there wasn't any effective treatment. So the point of having AIDS was an immediate death sentence. So of course people were scared, and they were concerned if they felt that they got it from someone else by even being in the same room with them. It was that level of scariness, and we've now learned that that's not the case. And so attitudes about HIV, you don't even use the word AIDS anymore, it's so unusual for anybody to get that ill, have changed, and we regard it that it is a manageable illness, and one in which people are not spreading it to other individuals, as long as you understand what you are doing and you take the appropriate protective action.
Great. I realized, observed about the conference yesterday, which I thought was great. The fact that it was providers, that is healthcare providers, and patients were both attending together. How important is it to build that, that bridge or that relationship between the providers and the patients?
That's a really important point. That's one of the things that the positive things that HIV has done for society and healthcare was bring those people together. Before HIV, doctors and healthcare workers, cared about their patients, but they didn't care enough about them to ask them what they wanted in a broad, in a comprehensive sense. Now, people who are living with the disease and their families are involved with all aspects of healthcare for HIV, and all aspects of research and programming. We always have patient advisory groups involved with all of our programs related to HIV, and that's spreading to the rest of